Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, your king, King Clifford Jefferson, attendant of Godfrey, the fifth kind of band Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. I'm the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we had the Third Provincial Church of England, called the King of Peace. I'm here on May 17th, 2024, which is the Berber year 2974. I greet you in the name of my Queen, Sister Godwinson from the House of Godwinson. I greet the name of Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, as well as Bishop Searchy from the House of Searchy, as well as all officers, members, and all those who are striving to be members. I greet you in the name of our predecessors, our ancestors, and all those who understand how important this movement is to our people. Okay, so without further ado, I have another marvelous lecture for my people. This one is regards to King and Parliament. Once again, King and Parliament. We watched or parts of. We talked yesterday about uh, the um, uh, the edit from Biden in regards to what the discussion was in my last video in regards to what we call the temple, the third temple being rebuilt, right? Which we know represents the Third English Church of England for us, but for the United States, it represents what we call the temple of democracy. Okay, the temple of democracy. All right, so it's very important to pay attention to what it is being said here at the third temple, i.e., the third temple English Church of England. This is the third temple that was supposed to be rebuilt versus the temple of democracy, which is what the United States is built off. It's called a democratic republic. This was started by what we call third president Thomas Jefferson. Okay, it's very important to understand that because if we look at the state of Israel today, they are actually at the head of that whole thing. Okay, the United States. So we must understand what's going to be revealed to you today in today's lesson. All right, King and Parliament. All right, we know that the King and Parliament represents the fusion of government that was here back in 1776. Okay, we know that the United States got their start from the 1787 Constitutional Convention in Pennsylvania. We know that Pennsylvania was a royal colony under the province of Pennsylvania that was granted by a charter given from Charles II to Duke of York. I mean, parts up to William Penn. And William Penn made his claim based off the twig and turf ceremony going back to Ashton, which was the grandson of Alfred the Great. It's very important to understand that those territories that were given to William Penn, based off the charter given from Charles II, as well as the territory known as New Jersey, back at that time called East Jersey and West Jersey, given to John Berkeley and George Carteret, which was also dissolved. And the territory at that time now was brought under the protection of what we call the Crown. We know that the Crown was established by a British monarch known as Queen Anne from 1702 to 1776 until it was overthrown by a New Jersey legislature. Okay, so we will reveal that history today in its entirety and show you, as a result of you removing the king from the crown, represents a viceroy. A viceroy represents a representation government, which you have now. All right, a representation government. We will be discussing these terms today. Okay, so make sure you grab your pen and pencil. Just give me a second. Let me grab my phone. We talked yesterday about, once again, democracy. All right. We talked about the Democratic Republic. We talked about Biden and his address in regards to Jerusalem temple, the third temple being rebuilt. All right, as or the temple of democracy. And we know that the United States is a democracy, a democracy known as the republic. And we know the republic is nothing more than what we call a commonwealth, right? A commonwealth which was transferred from Great Britain to here, all right, through the Scottish diaspora, which was a result of the Ashkenazi Jews, all right, who migrated to England with William the Conqueror in 1066 from the Jewish diaspora, which was the expulsion from Jerusalem, all right. And then from there, they went to what we call Ireland and Scotland. In Ireland and Scotland, they were expelled from there as well. All right, all under what we call the Edwardian uh, conquest of Ireland. All right, and this resulted in what we call the planned colonization of Ireland and Scotland through what we call the Ulster and Scottish diaspora. Okay, the immigration migration here as a result of the Elizabeth settlement of 1701, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So we'll be discussing these things today. All right. But before I do that, as always, I want to give a narrative. Hopefully, we won't have any problems with the tape. All right. Yesterday we had a problem with the sound. It might have been because of my other camera I had. Okay, so hopefully that won't be an issue. Okay. All right. So without further ado, I'm not going to hold you long. Hopefully, let's get started with this marvelous thing. We know that the past lectures were called, prior to this one, was dealing with the edict of expulsion as well as the exchequer of the Jews. All right. And then we went on to talk about the third house of the sanctum, which is the third temple English church of England, which you're now hearing from. Okay. And this is very important because I represent king and parliament. Okay. King and parliament from a religious body of politics that Thomas Jefferson separated back in 1801. Okay. When he presented a petition for the separation of church and state to the House of Burgesses, which was the company or corporation which had their charter revoked. All right. They had their charter revoked, right? And all the territories from that charter, as well as the charters that were given prior to that, were all revoked by way of what we call the Crown of 1706, which was situated in what we call New Jersey Provincial Council. Right, we're going to talk about that today as well. Right, so hold on to your seat, brothers and sisters. It's going to be a good one. All right, let's get started. Show my speakers. Okay. Listen to their language that they're using. Okay. You're going to hear the word parliamentary, parliamentarian, etic. All right. You're going to hear all these words and terms from people who don't know where the terms originated from, nor the body politics that the terms are being used, which they're not actually representing based off their ignorance of the body politics or what they're using comes from. Okay, so it's very important to understand and listen to what they are saying because what they're saying is based upon their ignorance, and we can tell that ignorance and the consciousness of that ignorance based off Biden's speech we heard from the White House press. All right. All right, so listen very, very close, and I'm going to break this down for you. All right, let's get started.
adventures, the hilarious.
All right, be playing. All right, we're not gonna play. All right, all right, but all those who are viewing this podcast, please go to YouTube and look up "Fight Erupts at Insane House Hearing." Okay, fights erupts at Insane House Hearing. All right, please. Just close this out. Testing, 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 testing. So basically, if you watch it, they're arguing with each other. This is the Senate, okay? The Senate are arguing with each other in regards to impeaching Biden, okay? They totally forget what they were there for, and apparently start ranting about something else, which results in what we call name calling and demeaning each other. All right, and when you watch it on the news, which I'm pretty sure will be on the news tonight, the broadcast on the news outside of the Capitol says that it actually resulted, or it might have something to do with what we call alcohol. All right, so that means that they're actually drinking and partaking of alcoholic beverages in the White House while they're on official business. Okay, what's up with that? There's a problem with that. Why I think there's a problem with that? Let's see why. So hey, I couldn't play that video. All right, let's deal with our colonial government. Greetings, 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 Brother Spencer from the House of Spencer. Brother Rich from the House of Spencer. Good to have you here this evening. Good, well, this morning, I should say. This message, this lesson is to disqualify this government, which we now have. All right? To disqualify this government we now have. Because if you go on YouTube, as I just stated, there was an argument on the congressional level of the House of Representatives in regards to impeaching the president, which actually resulted in what we call name calling and defamation of actual members of that actual parliamentary procedure, which they call um, a cabinet, okay, the Republican cabinet. And it's very important to understand that this particular gathering resulted from what we call the lower house of the government. You got the upper house and the lower house, all right? And the lower house is called the House of Representatives. And the House of Representatives is very important, not just from your state level, but your United States level, because they all are intertwined into each other by way of their colonial past. Okay, it's very important to you to understand that, and they're acting as viceroys. Okay, viceroys without the king being there. It's very important for the king being there. All right, we see that the president is acting in a position as the sovereign, but yet his power is not the sovereign because his power is based upon a limitation that's prescribed by the Constitution. We know that the Constitution is rooted in the 1787 Congressional Convention that took place in Pennsylvania. Okay, that took place in Pennsylvania. We know Pennsylvania was acquired by William Penn by way of what we call the twig and turf ceremony, which only resulted by way of a charter given from Charles II to William Penn in regards to a process known as the colonial plan that was started from the plantation of Ulster, which was in Pennsylvania, all right, which originated from what we call Ulsters of Scottish Jews who immigrated under the colonial plan as prescribed by King James VI of Scotland and presumed to be the first king of England. Okay, I sure wish I could have showed you that video, but once again, please make sure you go to YouTube and check it out in regards to what was it called? Breaking news, all hell break loose. All hell breaks loose when Majority Teller Green directly insults Jasmine Crockett. Okay? Everybody, when you get your time after this class, go and check out Breaking News. All hell breaks loose when Majority Teller Green directly insults Jasmine Crockett. All right, I'm pretty sure we all know who these people are. Okay, they are on different sides. One side Democratic and the other side is Republican. Okay, so it's very important for you to watch this clip after this lecture, okay? Because it shows you how incompetent that your representatives are in regards to the protection of you as being a citizen, okay? It's very important, all right? You safer with me than you are with them, okay? So let's get there and let's prove it. Colonial government of the 13 colonies. Thank you, Brother Spencer, from the House of Spencer. Everybody listen close. Get your papers and pens. Make sure you do. Out every time, huh? I show up. All right, let's get there. The government of the 13 colonies of the British American developed in the 17th and 18th century under the influence of the British Constitution. This is the Bill of Rights, y'all. The 1689 Bill of Rights. All right. Okay. And this all based upon religious freedom. All right. Religious freedom and separation of church and state. Religious freedom and separation of church and state. Two main factors in this lesson today. Separation of church and state and freedom of religion. All right. Without the freedom, separation of church and state, you wouldn't have no freedom of religion. Okay. Once again, I repeat, without separation of church and state, you would not have no freedom of religion. And the freedom of religion came by way of the First Amendment, which you created through your Constitution, which without the Constitutional Convention of 1787, you wouldn't have. Okay, so the only thing is that is more present is the Bill of Rights of 1689. Okay, and whatever exists before that. All right, in regards to the topic we're talking about, North America. right? The government of the 13 colonies of British America developed in the 17th and 18th centuries under the influence of the British Constitution. Let me see. All right, you can look that on your own time. We know when we're talking about the British, we're talking about Great Britain. All right, and anything dealing with Great Britain or anything dealing with what we call the Scottish minor or Scottish Ashkenazi Jews or the Ulster and Scottish uh, 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 Protestants. All right, they're all the same group of people that we're talking about. We heard that in the press release that was given on regards to Biden's speech in regards to the third temple being rebuilt or the temple of democracy. He said either or, the temple of Jerusalem or the temple of democracy. The temple of Jerusalem and the temple of democracy here is totally different from the temple of Jerusalem that's over there in what we call Egypt. Okay, it's very important to understand that because they got a different body of politics than we have over here. Okay, but yet President Biden is speaking on behalf of the religious aspect of what we call the third temple, the building of the third temple, which he makes reference to the temple of democracy, okay, which makes reference to the legislative government, and I mean, parts of it makes reference to um, the Capitol building, okay. The Capitol building is a symbol or representation of your temple of democracy, okay, your temple of democracy. Okay. The executive branch was led by the governor. It didn't say president, did it, y'all? It said governor. The executive branch was led by the governor, and the legislative branch was divided into two houses, a governor's council and a representative assembly. Okay? The governor's council and the representative assembly. This is called a viceroy. A viceroy. A royal colony is a colony under the authority of the crown. Either it's by its king or the king's representative, okay, which is what we call king and parliament. In the royal college, the governor and the council were appointed by the British government because we know that they were operating under what they called a rump parliament, called a commonwealth, what you call a republic, which is one and the same. The governor and the council were appointed by the British government. In proprietary colonies, the officials were appointed by proprietors and they were elected in charter colonies. In every colony, the assembly was elected by free male property owners. You hear that? Free male property owners. And you got a difference between a proprietary colony and the royal colony. The royal colonies were grants directly from the grantor, which what we know as the monarch, you know what I'm saying? And then you got the proprietary colonies, which were charters given from landlords or lessor lords. Okay, we know that this is the business of what we call the power of eminent domain under what we call the prescription of sovereignty. Okay, the prescription of sovereignty. So let's take a look at this map. As you can see, all right, as you can see here on the map, I have to let you know after class. It's the same one you had last time, but wait till after class. I'll let you get that information. Okay. As you can see, in the dark reddish color, these are all the 13 colonies. Okay? These are all the 13 colonies. All right. All these came about under the jurisdiction of what we call the crown, under the Kingdom of England, which was being overseen by Scottish monarchs from King James on down to what we call Queen Anne in 1702. Everything on west of it was based upon that was ruled by the Kingdom of France. All right. The Kingdom of France was ruled by Charles Hughes Capet. All right. Hughes Capet ran all this, even though the city of or the capital so why I should say the authority of France was ruling over on the Iberian Peninsula, what we call the European continent. The colonies that were planted here was based upon the story you see here in Pinkies. And then the territories that Spain had were just territories extended down from the Spanish crown on King Ferdinand III. Ferdinand III, as well as Hughes Capet, their descendants were in alliance with the kingdom of the Plantagenet crown through Edward I and Henry III. Henry III and Edward I married French and Spanish queens. All right. One was called Eleanor of Castile, and one was called Eleanor of Castile. One was called Eleanor of what was it? Eleanor Congress. Let's just look it up. Give me a second. I don't like to guess. I like to be right. Edward the First. I'm putting both up for you. Let's do Henry the Third first. Edward the Third. And to add another succession, yes, sir. Greetings, C.A. Murphy from the House of Murphy. Henry the Third. Let's see him. See his wife. We're talking about New Spain, and New France. Okay. His spouse was Eleanor. I hit it on the nose. Eleanor Province. Right. Eleanor Province. She was of the French, of France. All right. If I'm not mistaken, her father was Louis the Ninth. Let's see. I could be wrong with that. Yeah, I was wrong with that. All right. Eleanor Province. All right. Eleanor Province was the wife of Henry III. Okay. She was from the House of Barcelona. Okay. From the House of Barcelona. But she was French. She was of French descent or Frankish descent. Okay. Now let's go to Edward the First. All right, because Edward Henry III was the father of Edward the First. Let's go with Edward the First. See who his wife was. Isabella Castile, Eleanor Castile, right there. Eleanor of Castile, all right? Eleanor of Castile, where she at? Right here. Her father was Ferdinand III, okay? So that's the Spanish crown and the French crown, all right? They were ruling colonies over here and what we call North America, okay? North America. Where is this right? North America, right here. Spain and French, all right? The French control this under the Kingdom of France. All this territory that Spain had and French had was succeeded to Great Britain in the Treaty of Paris of 1763. You had a Treaty of Paris prior to 1763, which was called the Treaty of Paris of 1259, when the French and the French signed the Treaty of 1259 that ended the war between the Capitan dynasty and the Plantagenet dynasty that went on from 1169 to 1199. Greetings, Countess Bishop Cersei from the House of Cersei. Good to have you here. Okay. So we see we're not talking about territories over there in Europe, Asia, or Africa. We're talking about territories over here in North America that Spain, French, and Great Britain took over. Okay. Once again, we're talking about colonization, all right, immigration, migration of Spain, French, and United Kingdom, then known prior to that called Great Britain, which was nothing more than the Scottish minor who was at war with the French. Okay, they were at war with the French. We know that through the Treaty of Perpetual Treaty of Westminster. All right, let's do this real quick. The treaties of Westminster. All right. When we trace the rabbit hole down to the original where the rabbit lived at, we'll start here. The Treaty of Westminster, which is called the Treaty of Wallingford, which goes back to the anarchy. All right. The anarchy is a result of what we call the Assize Courts of Clarendon and the Constitution of Clarendon, which is what our First Amendment or the Establishment Clause is rooted in. The Establishment Clause, or the which you call your First Amendment from the Constitution of the United States, is rooted in the Clarendon of Constitution, which resulted in the anarchy, which is based upon this treaty right here. Treaty of Westminster, 1153. Okay. Right here, Treaty of Westminster of 1674 was when the restoration of Charles II was restored by way of Amsterdam surrendering to the British Crown. All right, the British Crown. And it's very important because this has to deal with the territories where we call New Jersey. Okay, New Jersey. The Treaty of Westminster 1674 was the peace treaty that ended the Third Anglo and Dutch War, signed by the Dutch Republic and the Kingdom of England, and the treaty provided for the return of the colony of New Netherland and England, and renewed the Treaty of Breda in 1677. New Netherland was prior to, if we call it New Jersey, was occupied by the Dutch. Okay, that's what it was called, the Dutch. All right, so all these treaties must be taken into consideration. All right, because treaties are not uh, involve the land. Treaties involve the disputes between the individual. Okay, dispute between the individual has nothing to do with the land. All right, has nothing to do with the land. That's why it was the first past Queen and Pretorius. All right, you could not bother substitute the land because the land reverts back to the crown. All right, let's go back to the colony. We're gonna go back more into that, but for now, I want to start from the beginning. Ulster Scottish. We got to start here again, y'all. We're not talking about the Spanish territories, which is the western part of North America. We're not talking about the French territory, which is the middle of North America. Or we're not talking about the east side of what we call North America, which is where the 13 colonies come from. We descend down prior to that prescription of sovereignty. We were already here on this continent. The only way that they invaded it is by way of prescription of sovereignty, and by that prescription of sovereignty and through marriage. Okay, through marriage, because we know Pennsylvania has two territories called the York and the Lancaster. Okay, the York and the Lancasters, which were territories in Pennsylvania, named after York and Pennsylvania, which are names originating from the cadet branches of that Plantagenet, the cadet York and the Lancaster branches, which descended down from Edward the First. Okay, from Edward the First. All that broke down as a result of what we call the Treaty of Perpetual Peace of 1502. Let me pull that up real quick. It's needed. About the people. How you gonna make a treaty on some land that you don't own? That's stupid for anybody to believe something like that. Just like treaties were made of water. You don't own the water either. All right. You got treaties made on land, you got treaties made on water. All right. And it's basically to end a dispute, whether it was about war, you know what I'm saying? The land don't fight, it's the people that's fighting. And usually the fighting that the people are doing is usually originates over what we call land. The Treaty of Perpetual Peace was signed by King James III of Scotland and Henry VII of England in 1502. It agreed to end the intermittent war between Scotland and England, which has been waged over the previous 200 years. And although it failed in this respect, a hostile continued intermittently throughout the 16th century and led to the Union of Crowns 101 years later in what we call 1603. Okay? 1603. Y'all better pay attention. Consequence. The treaty was broken in 1513 when James declared war on England in support of the French, who had lately been attacked by the English. Did you hear that? First, you had a treaty in 1502 with England, all right? But you broke that treaty with England in 1502 and 1513 because your previous alliance with the Frankish dynasty when you were warring with England back in the time with Edward the First, all right? With Edward the First. So you see, now it's King James the fourth. The fourth, yeah, King James the fourth. You're right, part south. Yeah, thank you for that correction. And that's the reason why I'm glad I'm showing you on the screen. So if I made a mistake and verbalize it because I got a lot going on here, you can actually see it, knowing that well that was a mistake that the king made. Like I said, I'm physical. You know what I'm saying? I'm a physical being, so I'm mortal. Oh, I'm sorry, Bishop Cersei. I'm like I said, I'm mortal. I apologize, Bishop Cersei. I'm looking at the. I got a lot of things. I got bad eyesight too. Please forgive me, Bishop Cersei. I'm gonna wait for your response on that. Thank you. All right. Yeah, because like I said, my eyes is on the screen, and I'm looking down at the phone. to check the chat line. So forgive me. All right, and I got bad eyesight too as well. All right. So the terms of the conditions, right, was there to be good, real, and sincere, true, sound, and firm peace, friendship, league, and confederation to last all time coming between England and Scotland. Okay, between England and Scotland. This is the pact between King James IV and Henry VII from the House of Tudors. All right, while we warned against ourselves through the War of the Roses between the Yorks and Lancasters, they conspired to take over our state. Do you see it? They're conspiring to take over our state. Neither king or their successors shall make war against the other. If either broke the treaty, the Pope would excommunicate them. Did y'all hear that? Okay. Now, law of that agreement, based upon that Treaty of Perpetual Peace in 1502, look what happened in 1513. The treaty was broken in 1513 when James declared war on England in support of the French, not Scotland now, the French, who had lately been attacked by the English. All right. So now they had a compact in 1502 with Scotland and England, but then that treaty was broke because Scotland had an agreement with France before they had an agreement with England, and they weren't even English. They were Scottish sitting on the English throne. Okay, there were Scottish sitting on the English throne, i.e., Ashkenazi Jews sitting on the English throne. Okay, the treaty was broken in 1513 when James declared war on England in support of the French, who had later been attacked by the English. James was acting according to Scotland's obligation to France under an older mutual defense treaty called the Auld Alliance. We already talked about that. All right, going back to the Mongols, the Ottoman Empire. All right, James was excommunicated by Pope Leo X, and the English Cardinal Bainbridge was breaking his sworn treaty with England. The subsequent invasion by the Scots met defeat when James was killed on the 9th of September in 1513 at the Battle of Flodden in Northumberland. Greetings, Brother DeVere from the House of DeVere. Glad you was able to be almost on time. You good. I just started, Noble. All right. Despite this abrogation, the Treaty of Perpetual Peace had a long-lasting effect because of the marriage between James Stuart and Margaret of Tudor. Their great-grandson, King James VI of Scotland, was able to succeed to the English throne and the union of the crown in 1603. That goes back into what we call the thorn and the thistle in the rose. The thorn and the thistle of the rose, which was based upon the Treaty of Paris of 1502 as a result of the marriage with Margaret of Tudor, who was a descendant of Henry VIII and Henry VII, the founder of the House of Tudor. Okay, as we can see, it gets better and better and better and better. All right, let's go back to the colonization, North America, colonial government. As you can see, this was in the the light red is all symbolic of the 13 colonies. All right, the 13 colonies. Everything west of that consists of what we call French territory. All right, and Spanish territory that was succeeded to Great Britain in 1763 under what they call the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris don't involve the land. The land was under the rule of the Plantagenet crown, going to the Treaty of Paris of 1259. Let's pull it up. You see right here, Proclamation of 1763. The 1259 Treaty of Paris, or the Treaty of Albertville, was a peace treaty agreed between Louis IX of France and King Henry III of England on the 4th of December, 1259, briefly ending a century-long conflict between the Capitan and the Plantagenet dynasty. Okay, it's very important to understand that because when we go back to the Kingdom of France, let's just pull that up, just for the sake of the argument. Let's just pull it up. We got to. I don't want y'all to think I'm making this up. I gotta pull it up. I gotta show you. I don't talk about it. I'll be about it. Look at the map. Okay? Look at the map. This is the Kingdom of France. Look at the map, y'all. Look where we at. We are on the European continent. All right, we're not on the continent of Asia nor the continent of Africa. We're on the continent of Europe, which is considered what we call Iberia. Okay, Spain and Iberia. Okay, you see, you got Spain and France on the same continent. The Kingdom of Spain and the Kingdom of France are both there. I'm not going to hit Kingdom of Spain because you know it's right there. Okay. The Kingdom of France, all right. Great Britain, which they call England, Ireland, and Scotland. Okay. Right there. All right. Behind the hell they're over here in what we call North America. Okay. North America. Let's just read this just to make the connection. France in the Middle Ages was a decentralized feudal monarchy, and Brittany and Catalonia, now a part of Spain, as well as Aquitaine, the authority of the French kings was barely felt. Lorraine and Burgundy were states of the Holy Roman Empire and not yet part of France. Okay? West Frankish, we're not talking about the Plantagenet crown because they were Frankish kings. Frankish kings descended down from the Nordic tribe, from the Carolingian, Merovingian, and the Capetine dynasty. Okay? Very important for y'all to understand that. West Frankish kings were initially elected by the secular and ecclesiastical mandate, but their regular coronation of the eldest son of the reigning king during his father's lifetime established the principle of male primogeniture, which became coded in what they call Sedic law. During the late Middle Ages, rivalry between the Capetine dynasty, rule of the Kingdom of France, and their vassals, the House of Plantagenet. That means that we were enslaved. Okay? Who will also rule the Kingdom of England as part of their so-called competing Angevin empire, resulting in many armed struggles. Did y'all hear that? Many armed struggles. The most notorious of them all are the series of conflicts known as the 100-Year War. You had two of them, the first 100-Year War and the second 100-Year War, in which the kings of England laid claim to the French throne, emerging victorious from the said conflicts. France subsequently sought to extend its influence into Italy, but after initial gaining was defeated by Spain and the Holy Roman Empire in the Ensuing Italian War. This is later, this is in the 15th, 16th century, okay? All right, so we got that. Now let's go to New France, New France. Thank you, brother Spencer from the House of Spencer. We're not looking at it from inside the planet. We're viewing this from outside the planet. All right, this is how we're looking at it. So the Kingdom of France over on the European continent, along with the Kingdom of Spain over there on the European continent, established colonies in North America called New France and New Spain. New France and New Spain. How we know it, look at the territory that New Spain encompasses. Look at that. Status. Viceroyalty of the Kingdom of France. Did you hear that? Viceroyalty of the Kingdom of France. So the Kingdom of France was governing territories over here as colonies. As colonies. All right? As colonies. We know Louis the 14th come before Louis the 15th, right? Louis the 14th come before, Louis the 9th come before Louis the 15th. And Louis the 9th established the Capitine and Plantagenet Treaty of Paris in 1259. All right, before you had the Treaty of Paris in 1763. All right, we must understand what's going on. Let's read. After 700, first of all, let's go here. The first one was Francis the First. Francis the First established what we call New French. New France. All right, New France. We must understand this. New France was established by Francis the First, and we go back to the Treaty of Westminster. Let's go back to them. And we talked about the Treaty of Westminster. Let's see where he come in. Right here. Right here. Francis the First. Francis the First. You right here. All right. Let's go to another one. The Treaty of Westminster. We just looked at 1511. Let's go to 1527. This man was busy. You see Henry VIII there. Where he at? Right here. Francis the First. Francis the First of Spain. Of France. Right there. He's right here, y'all. But yet they got territories over here in what we call North America, because it said New France here in North America was under what they call founded by Francis the First. All right. Over here. Right here. Let's go back to the colonization here in North America. Colonial government. Right here. The same thing you see in New Spain. It's the same thing you see right here. Okay. So these governments of France and the governments of Spain, i.e., the colonies of Spain, under the jurisdiction of the Kingdom of Spain and the Kingdom of France. And we know that the Kingdom of Spain and the Kingdom of France had alliance with the Kingdom of Plantagenet through their descendants, Edward the First and him the Third, because they married into the family. Okay, they married into the family. Yes, he's running it over here though. Even though he's over there, he's running stuff over here. He's running the show over here. His government, because it was called an itinerant court, a moving government, a moving government. All right. They said it was a viceroy, a viceroy. All right. How many of you know what a viceroy? Let's look at it. A viceroy or viceroyalty is an official who reigns over a polity in the name of and as the representative of the monarch of the territory. Did y'all hear that? The term derives from the Latin prefix vice, meaning in the place of, and the Anglo-Norman roi, Old French roi, meaning king. This denotes to the position as one who acts on behalf of the king or minor. This is called a republic or a commonwealth. Y'all better listen to me. Y'all better listen to y'all king. All right? All right? So viceroy. We know that the constitutional government, the colonial government here were working under viceroy, representatives for the king. All right? Just like your governor was a representative of the king. Just like your president is a representation of the king. Yes, this is that fire, brother. Yes, sir. This is that fire. Let's go back to it. The government of the 13 colonies of British America developed in the 17th, 18th century under the influence of the British Constitution. After 13 colonies had become United States, the experience under colonial rule would inform and shape the new state constitution and ultimately the United States Constitution. You hear that? The states' constitutions and ultimately the United States Constitution. So every state of the Union had their own state constitution, which was their charter to do business, okay? As a colony, okay? So that means you got a charter from somebody. The executive branch was led by the governor, and the legislative branch was divided into two houses, a governor's council and a representative assembly. Okay. Now you just see, or you're going to see if you haven't seen it already on the news, that the House of Representatives was acting on behalf of the people, but in there arguing amongst themselves, name calling, defamation of character, doing everything other than dealing with the issue of trying to um, impeach the president, all right? Because the president is acting under the auspices as if he are the descendants of the Anglo-Saxon Berbers, when he's nothing more than nothing more than the Ashkenazi Jews who immigrated and migrated here and set up shop here by way of the cabinet that you put in place to do your bidding. Okay? It's very important for you to understand that because that's how we're going to track it back. We're going to trace it all the way back down to the line to him. Okay? So we see that the executive branch was led by a governor. Now we know we ain't got no governor now because all the governors had surrendered their sovereign power that was given to them by the monarch to the president. All right. The executive branch was led by a governor, and the legislative branch was divided into two houses, a governor council and a representative assembly. And the royal colonies, the governor and the council were appointed by the British government. In proprietary colonies, the officials were appointed by proprietors, and they were elected in charter colonies. In every colony, the assembly was elected by free males and property owners. The American Revolution was a dispute over the British Parliament right to the enacted domestic legislation for the American colony. The British government position was that Parliament authority was unlimited, while the American position was that the colonial legislature was co-equal with Parliament. Did you hear that? American position was that the colonial legislators were co-equal with the parliament and outside of it and outside of the jurisdiction. As the revolution progressed, the colonial government were replaced by a temporary provincial congress and ultimately by a republican constitution or a constitution of the commonwealth. Right? Relationship with the British Crown. Hold that thought, y'all. How about that? No? All right, let's get to it. It's going to get even deeper. All right. Relationship to the British government. By the start of the American Revolution, the 13 colonies had developed a political system featuring a governor exercising executive power and a bicameral legislature, made up of the council and the assembly. The system was similar to the British Constitution, but the governor corresponded to the British monarch, the council to the House of Lords, and the assembly to the House of Commons. Absolutely right. The 13 colonies were all founded with the royal authorization, and authority continued to flow from the monarch as colonial governments exercised authority in the king's name, i.e., viceroy, or vice royalty, all right, under the king's radical title, okay? A colony precise relationship to the crown depended on whether it was a charter colony, proprietary colony, or royal colony as defined in its colonial charter. Whereas royal colonies belonged to the crown, proprietary and charter colonies were granted by the crown to private interests. Did y'all hear this? Control over the charter or corporate colonies were granted to a joint stock, i.e., joint stock companies are what they call shareholders or stockholders that give or grant exclusive privileges to the stakeholders, which you call your escrow agents or what we call your brokers, who convey land for profit. Okay, that's why they call the stakeholder. All right. It says that New England charter colonies were virtually independent of royal authority and operated as the republics, where property owners elected the governor and legislator. You hear that? Property owners elected the governor and legislator. There goes your source. Taylor 2001, page 247. Proprietary colonies were owned and governed by individuals. All right? Did you hear that? To attract settlers, however, proprietors agreed to share power with property owners. Maryland, South Carolina, North Carolina, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania were founded as proprietary colonies. Did y'all hear that? They were founded as proprietary colonies. So that means that you got a charter from the crown, buddy. You got a charter from the crown. Let's prove it. It said New Jersey, so we don't have to look no further. It says it right there. I just move further. Once again, let's get an idea before we move on the government. We know this government, the colonial government, was under the crown, right? We must understand it. It was under the crown, but it was under the jurisdiction, under the Commonwealth, called the Republic, under the British monarchs, from King James, the Sixth of Scotland, to Queen Anne in 1702. Prior to that, all the territory through what we call succession, what we call acquisition, the territory was conveyed to Great Britain. All right, this territory. We ain't talking about what's over there on the European, Asiatic, I mean, parts of European or the Asian continent or the African continent. We're talking about right here, over here. So since we understand the colonial government that was here prior to the American government, which you now have, let's disqualify them now. All right, let's disqualify him and let him know that our government was already here. The English government was already here prior to Spain, France, and Great Britain. Okay? Because we already knew that the English overseas possession was over here in the Anglo sphere. All right? Had his own sphere separate separated from the sphere what you call Europe, Asia, and Africa. Already here, unknown about until you got to what they call the age of discovery or the age of acquisition of sovereignty or the age of conquest that started with who? Henry VIII. All right? William the Conqueror. Okay? Ashkenazi Jews. Okay? Brother Sniper, was that you that sent that, the house of God? I don't know where that big downloaded chat line came from. All right, I don't know if it's from Brother Spencer or who. It said bring down the house of God. I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to ignore that. Right? That was you, Brother Spencer. I didn't mean to block you, but I didn't know who that was. So uh it's that particular uh post I don't agree with. Right. So that I'm gonna move forward. All right. The Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union was the agreement of the 13 colonies, okay, that served as the nation's first frame of government. It was debated. Countess Bishop Searcher, are you still on the chat? Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Okay, where did that come from? Was that brother Spencer from the House of Spencer, or was that somebody else? That was Spencer. Oh. How do I unblock Spencer? Bear with me. Click back. Bear with me, man. Brother Spencer, are you there again, brother? Let me know if you're still there, brother. Brother Spencer, are you there? I'm trying to unblock him. I didn't think so either, but like I said, I reacted real quick to make sure. Are you there, brother Spencer? Let me know if you're back. Unhide. Let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to do that now. Trying to do it. Not even allowing me to do it. Bear with me, y'all. Trying to get my brother back in there. Greetings, brother Spencer. Are you there, brother? Brother Spencer, are you there? I got it. All right, my man. I apologize for that, brother. All right, I was worried. All right. Let me give me some coffee, man. Y'all done got me shaking. Hold on. Okay, let's get it. Yeah, that was funny, brother. They can't stop this flow. The Articles of Confederation Perpetual Union was an agreement among the 13 states of the United States. We ain't talking about France. We ain't talking about New Spain, France. We ain't talking about New Spain because the territory that New Spain and New France had already was taken care of through the Treaty of Paris of 1259, which is a plantation crown by way of marriage. Okay. All right. We know France ultimately goes back to what we call the Capetine dynasty because Francis the First was the descendant of the Capetine dynasty. Yeah, but they ain't gonna stop this. The Articles of Confederation as we said, a perpetual union was an agreement among the 13 states of the United States, formerly the 13 colonies, that served as the nation's first frame of government. It was debated by the Second Continental Congress, all right, Congress at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Why Philadelphia? Between July 1776 and November 1777, and finalized by Congress November 5th, 1777. So why Philadelphia? Why? Because Philadelphia was one of the states that were founded by William Penn, and William Penn was uh, was the territory where the plantation of the Ulsters immigrated and migrated to. And we know that the plantation of the Ulster was based upon those who were made up of what we call Scottish and Irish descendants who immigrated and migrated here through the Irish and Scottish diaspora. Okay, we see that. All right, in the 17th, 18th century, stuff was already going over here, going on this continent with France and Spain. Yes, Philadelphia was the capital. You're absolutely right. Let's get into it. It came into force on March 1st, 1781, after being ratified by the 13 colonial states. A guiding principle of the Articles was the establishment and preservation of the independence and sovereignty of the state. The Articles conscientiously established a weak federal government, affording it only those powers that the former colonies had recognized as belonging to the king and parliament. Did y'all hear that? I think y'all need to read that again for yourself while I get my call. Yeah, yeah. No matter what it is, the capital city is the one who collects all the exchequer, who keeps the current account. It's the municipality. All right. There's no ain't no such thing as a really ain't no such thing as a county, a shire, a county or a state or the United States. Because it all takes place in what we call your municipality, your municipal government. All right. Your municipal government. Let's read. It says that the Articles consciously established a weak federal government, affording it only those powers the former colonies had recognized as belonging to the king and parliament. The document provided clearly written rules for how the state league of friendship, known as the Perpetual Union, would be organized. Hence that word, Treaty of Perpetual Union. Going all the way back to 1502, with him, King James the Fourth and Henry VII from the House of Tudors. All right, which constantly are being broken. All right, so to know this history of the Articles of Confederation, we know it came about by way of it being a weak central government and it surrendering the sovereign power that it had, which actually belonged to the king and parliament. So, what is king and parliament? What is king and parliament? Let's look at that. King and Parliament. In Westminster system, we talking about Treaty of Westminsters, right? We're talking about Treaty of Westminster from 1153, which is dealing with the Treaty of Wallingford, going back to the anarchy, all the way up to the Treaty of Westminster of 1674, with the restoration of 16 was it? 1654, restoration of Charles II, somewhere around there. All right. We'll see it in a second when I pull it back up. But King and Parliament in the Westminster system used in many Commonwealth realms. All right. The King and Parliament or Queen and Parliament during the reign of a queen is a constitutional law concept that refers to the components of Parliament. The sovereign or vice-regal representative, viceroy, i.e., act in the name of the king, and the legislative house act together to enact legislation. This is called a rump parliament. Okay? A rump parliament. Parliamentary sovereignty is a concept in the constitutional law of Westminster system that holds that Parliament has absolute sovereignty and is supreme over all government institutions, the King and Parliament as a composite body. That is, Parliament exercises this legislative authority. Okay? Fusion of power. Better listen. Y'all better listen. We're talking about King and Parliament. The concept of the crown as part of Parliament is related to the idea of a fusion of power, meaning that the executive branch, the legislative branch of government are fused together. This is a key concept of the Westminster system of government, developed in England and used in the countries of the Commonwealth nations and beyond. It is contradiction to the idea of separation of church and state. Did y'all hear me? It's contradictory to the idea of the separation of church and state. Okay? So you got to watch out for the wordplay. In England, not no England, Great Britain. Don't play with us. In England, or we should say Great Britain, by the mid 16th century, it was established that the King of England, King of Parliament, held supreme legislative authority. However, this phrase was subject to two competing theories of interpretation. The royalist view interpreted the phrase as king in Parliament, that is, the king acting with the consent of the Lords and Commons, but ultimately exercised his own sovereign authority. The parliamentarian view was that the legislative authority was exercised by the king in Parliament, a composite institution of the king, Lord, and common acting together. Okay? Acting together. As described by Jeffrey Goldsworthy, the question that divided them was whether the final unchallenged decision maker was the king alone or the king, the Lord, and Commons in Parliament. The dispute had implications for the ability of Parliament to limit the monarch power or the supremacy of the king in Parliament over the king out of Parliament. The clash between the royalist and the parliamentarian views continued through the 16th century, much through the 17th century, and was a factor in the English Civil War and in the execution of Charles I. Did y'all hear that? Did you hear that? The parliamentary position ultimately prevailed with the Glorious Revolution in 1668 and 1689, and subsequently passed of the Bills of Rights, which significantly limit the day-to-day powers of the monarch, including removing prerogative power to unilaterally suspend or dispense with statutes. Did you hear that? So this was the overthrow of the king's power, the king's prerogative, the king's priority, the king's jural regality. All right? There you see it right there for your own eyes to see it. There's your source. All right? There's your source. Now, why do I say that? Why do we say that? That is better for us to know that. Because in the history concerning the colonial America, or the colonial government here in America that was governed by the crown under the royal colonies. Imagine our children going into these educational schools and dropping their science. Imagine that. Imagine them going there and letting them know that this is not y'all land. This land belongs to the monarchs who were ruling the territory before your monarchs got here. Okay? And yes, we're talking about the monarchs of Spain, Frankish descendants, and Scottish descendants. The English monarchs were already here. You were just sitting on our throne, and then you severed it. Why? Because you didn't want that primogeniture breaking up and coming to take that throne by way of incorporation, personifying, or just incarnating in the position of the crown of the English throne and not the British, Scottish, Irish, German, Moorish, or any other nationality for that matter that had nothing to do with this land. Okay? How we know? We got to go back to the establishment clause, which we'll go through in a second. Right? So you had a monarch of Spain, you had a monarch of France, and a monarch of Great Britain. Where are the English monarchs here? Not talking about over there on that territory you call Europe, Asia, and Africa. Here, where is the English monarch? And we know the English monarch started with William the Conqueror when he invaded England. When he invaded England, okay? The Jews came in with William the Conqueror when they invaded England. So that makes him a Jew, okay? That makes him a Jew. All right? So we're talking about the territories over here, all right? Over here. And we know based upon, as we said, the government here over here, it was based upon king and parliament. King and parliament. And what was the government of king and parliament? Just look at it again before we move forward. Fusion of power. The concept of the crown as part of the parliament is relative to the idea of a fusion of power, meaning the executive branch, the legislative branch, a government all fused together. This is the key concept of Westminster system of government going all the way back to 1153, all the way to this present. All the way to the present. All right? All the way to the present. All right, let's get there. Constitutional Convention. And we know under the Articles of Confederation, they said it was what? A weak government, right? And the power they surrendered to the United States government, i.e., under what they call the Articles of Confederation, now under what they call the Constitutional Convention, became the first, second Continental Congress, then it became a confederation, all right? Once it became a confederation, then they move on to what they established, what they call the Constitution of the United States, okay? I'm not making it up. It's going to read it for yourself. The Constitutional Convention took place in where? Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia. How you going to set up shop in Philadelphia when the land don't belong to William Penn? It don't belong to him. The land was surrendered back to the crown in 1702. All right? In 1702. So how in the hell does the United States having a constitutional convention in Philadelphia when that land was surrendered back to the crown in 1702? Okay, we must understand that. The Constitutional Convention took place in Philadelphia, May 25th to September 17th, 1787. Although the convention was intended to revise the League of States and first system of government under the Articles of the Confederation, the intention from the outset of many of its proponents, chief among them James Madison of Virginia and Alexander Hamilton of New York, was to create a new frame of government rather than fix the existing one under the Articles of Confederation, which we know was a weak government of the power given to you by the states, which actually belonged to king and parliament, which was a fusion of government. Because when you established the Constitutional Convention, you separated the government, all right? That was established by king and parliament. I ain't making it up. Let's read it for ourselves. The delegates elected George Washington of Virginia, former commanding general of the Continental Army and the late American Revolutionary War, and proponents of a stronger national government to become president of the convention, not governor, but president. The result of the convention was creation of a constitution of the United States, placing the convention among the most significant events in American history. So this is where all your rights from the First Amendment to the 14th Amendment come from, based upon this convention of 1787, which promulgated out of a weak convention going back to the Confederation, the First and Second Continental Congress, which ultimately got its start from the Articles of Confederation, which took the power that belonged to king and parliament, which was based upon the fusion of government and now the separation of church and state, which was came about through your convention in 1787, through the convening of your cabinet with George Washington, John Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, George Washington, and all those who came after them. All right, let's get it. The two conventions took place in Old Pennsylvania State House, known as Independence Hall in Philadelphia. At the time, the convention was not referred to as a constitutional convention. It was contemporarily known as a federal convention, the Philadelphia Convention, or the Grand Convention of Philadelphia. Nor did most of the delegates arrive intending to draft the new Constitution. Many assumed the purpose of the convention was to discuss the draft, improving the existing Articles of Confederation, and would not have agreed to participate otherwise. Once the convention had begun, however, most of the delegates, though not all, came to agree in general terms that the goal would be a new system of government, not simply a revised version of the Articles of Confederation. Several broad outlines were proposed and debated, most notably by Madison with the Virginia Plan and William Patterson with the Jersey Plan. You hear that? Remember those two names. The Virginia Plan was selected as the basis of the new government, and the delegates quickly reached consensus on the general blueprint of a federal government which had three branches: the legislative, executive, and judicial, along with the basic role of each branch. However, disagreement over specific design and powers of the branches delayed progress for the week and threatened the success of the convention of 1787. The most contentious disputes involved the legislature, specifically the composition of the election procedure for the Senate as the upper house legislature, as the upper legislative house of the bicameral Congress, and whether proportional representation was to be defined by the state geography or its population. All right, which ultimately resolved in what they call the Connecticut Compromise. Okay, as you can see here, the Connecticut Compromise. Right here, let's get there, y'all. Only your pen commercial on. They better. They better. Ain't nothing to play with. Remember, we already talked about the colonial government versus the government that was established under the Articles of Confederation, which we know was weak, because the only sort of government that prior to the weak one was that of the king's government, which was a fusional government. And we know your government was weak because you broke it up by creating what we call a separation of power. Okay? And then make it up. Let's read it for ourselves. During the American Revolution, the 13 American states replaced their colonial government, which was what? A fusion of government under what? King and parliament, even though it was under what they call Republican government, because that was under the Commonwealth, established by the British monarch, which actually usurped it by way of moving from the jure kings to de facto kings. Okay? We must understand that. Where we at? It says that during the American Revolution, the 13 American states replaced their colonial with republican constitutions based on the principles of separation of powers, organizing government into legislative, executive, and judicial branches. This revolutionary constitution endorsed legislative supremacy by placing most powers in the legislature, which was viewed as most representative of the people, including power traditionally considered as belonging to the executive and judicial branches. State governors lacked the significant authority, and state courts and judges were under the control of the legislative branch at that time. Partnership at that time. Look at the map. Look at the map, y'all. Colony of Louisiana, Viceroyalty of New Spain. All right. Then you got the territories in regards to the unification of the under the Articles of Confederation. Moving on to the Constitutional Convention of 1787, now formulating what you call colonies and what they call states, okay? Which is all crown land, all crown property, okay? Alliances, treaties will not get it. Will not get it, y'all. Why? Let's show you. Separation of power, okay? So the 13 colonies, which prior to them were called the 13 colonies by Great Britain, they were subject to the division government of what we call king and parliament. And those parliament prior to the Scottish king were the kings of Spain and the kings of France. Okay? They were already here. The territory they had, they gave to Great Britain, who didn't know what the hell they was doing. Right? They were taught by descendants of the Plantagenet crown, which was warm with Spain and France, which those alliances and treaties were made with the kings of France and Spain as a result of marriage between those queens of France. All right? Eleanor Province and Eleanor of Castile. Eleanor Province and Eleanor of Castile. It's crazy that both names are Eleanor. Okay, let's get there, y'all. There was the Great Britain. We know France and Spain was territories belonging to the Plantagenet crown. All right, through alliances with the Frankish marriages between the Frankish daughters of Frankish kings. All right, we have Eleanor Castile and we got Eleanor Province. All right, which ultimately goes back to Frankish kings when you look them up. All right, but for the sake of the territories dealing with the East Coast, all right, of North America, we have to go into the history concerning those treaties of Westminster's going all the way back from 1153 through the anarchy, all right? The anarchy. How we know that? Let's go to the, let's go right here. Not just separation of powers, but the separation of church and state. They not only separated the powers of government, but church and state. So they had an ultimate plan to truly sever our divinity and the laws that govern our divinity. Yes, yes. Interregnum. 1 second. What's going on, Bo? Okay. I left her switch and her iPad on the back patio. Okay, I'm getting it now. Right, hold that thought. Separation of churches. When you separate the church and state, they separate the powers of our body of politics, i.e., the power of the church. All right. When they separate the church and state, they separate the powers of our government. Okay. They separate the powers of our government. It's very, very important for you to understand that. Separation of church and state is a metaphor paraphrased by Thomas Jefferson, used by others in discussion regarding the Establishment Clause and Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, which reads, Congress shall make no law respecting and establishing the religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. All right. This was delivered to the Virginia House of Burgesses, all right, by Thomas Jefferson. All right. And this is one of the things that he wrote. Jefferson reflects other thinkers, including Roger Williams, a Baptist dissenter, and founder of the province of Rhode Island. He writes, when they, the church, have opened a gap in the hedge or wall of the separation between the guarding of the church and the wilderness of the world, God has ever broken down the wall itself and removed that candlestick, etc., and made his guarding a wilderness as it is in this day. And that, therefore, if he will ever please to restore his garden and paradise again, it must of necessary be walled and peculiar unto himself from the world. And all that be saved out of the world are to be transplanted out of the wilderness into the world. That sounds like the day of resurrection. Okay? That sounds like the day of resurrection. Because Thomas Jefferson said in his day that the world was a wilderness, and that the wilderness was a result of that candlestick not being there, but it represents the wall of lightness and darkness. Okay? Of lightness and darkness. Okay? And this was carried on to your present day with the separation of church and state, which is separation of powers, a fusion of government that was under God's protection, under God's church, by God's king, under God's kingdom. Okay? And usually God's kingdom is ran by a king. Okay? It's ran by a king. That's why Jesus was called the King of Peace. I already got it. Called the King of Peace. Yes. Yes. In keeping with the lack of an established state religion in the United States, unlike in many European nations at the time, Article 6 of the United States Constitution specifies that no religious test should ever be required as a qualification to any office, public trust under the United States, meaning that there will be no official state religion lawfully established. It's still going on now. An interregnum is where there's no king in office now. It's now is open now. The demise has taken place. There is a king now who represents the Kingdom of England. So therefore, the restoration of the crown and the colonies have taken place as established under Article 22 of the Jersey Constitution of 1776. Just like as it was said in New Jersey Revised Statute 16.1-28, right seated under the charge of Great Britain, saved from appeal, an act to incorporate trustees of religious society for property held in corporations in place thereof. Yes. Well said, Brother DeVere from the House of DeVere. Well said. Yes. It was deals made with other parties and being broken, nothing more than treaties. Okay. And the result of not allowing for the demise of the crown. All hail the king. Okay. All hail the king. So it said, in keeping with the lack of established state religion in the United States, unlike in many European nations at the time, Article 6 of the United States Constitution specifies that no religious test should ever be required as to qualifications to any office or public trust under the United States. So therefore, due to the fact there's a separation of church and state, and I can't interfere with who they want for the officer, They can't interfere who we want as an officer for the state or the trust, i.e., trust the state, which they call a state intel. Okay, and the state in intel, or what we call feedtel, contrast to being simple, being broken. Yes. All right. Listen, early history. We're talking about separation of church and state. Listen who we're talking about, y'all. Early history of separation of church and state. Listen, y'all better listen. Many early immigrants traveled to North America to avoid religious persecution in their homeland. Whether based on a different denomination, religion, or sect, some immigrants came from England after the English Civil War and the rise of Protestant dissenting sects in England. Others fled Protestant Catholic religious conflict in France and Germany. Immigrants included nonconformists such as the Puritans, who were Protestant Christians fleeing religious persecution from the Anglican kings of England, and later dissenters such as the Baptists. All right. The groups had varieties. The groups had a variety of attitudes on religious toleration. The Puritans, for instance, initiated one to totally Puritan society, while some leaders, such as Roger Williams of Rhode Island and the Quaker William Penn of Pennsylvania, ensured the protection of religious minorities within their colonies. The Plymouth colony in Massachusetts Bay Colony in New England established churches initially Puritan. The Dutch colony in New Netherlands, known as New Jersey, established its state Dutch Reformed Church and outlawed all other worship. Though enforcement was sparse in what was initially a trading mercantile colony, in some cases, jurisdiction wanted religious conformity for financial reasons. The established church was responsible for poor relief, putting dissenting churches at a significant disadvantage. Yes. All right. So we're dealing with, as we're talking about, separation of church and state. When you separate the church and state, you separate the fusion of government or the fusion of power. And we see all the states that separation church and state, all right, including Pennsylvania, right, which is in question, and New Netherlands, which became New Jersey when it became Jersey, when it was under the Jersey jurisdiction under the Duchess of Normandy before it became subject to the Dutch and what we call um, and New Netherlands when they invaded, colonized, or so-called discovered the eastern part of what we call North America, called New Netherlands. All right, and this is under Charles Restoration. All that territory that was called New Netherlands, Dutch under what we call the Battle of Amsterdam, was surrendered back to Charles II through the restoration of the crown, which is what we know through the Battle of Dunbar, which allowed the Ashkenazi or Scottish or Ulster Scottish Jews to come into what we call North America, knowing that it was already occupied by our ancestors, going back to wars and conflicts we had with the Frankish and Spanish descendants who immigrated here from other continents known as Europe and Asia. Okay? Well said, Bishop Searcy. Well said. That's what's happening now. This is what's happening now. So you're now in a position to make your choice. Okay, you're now in a position to make your choice. Who you going to work? Who you going to follow? Okay, who you going to follow? Let's get there. All right, so this goes back since they talked about all the different denominations that were over here for religious freedom. All right, we know religious freedom was based upon the separation of church and state, and when you did that, you separated the fusion of power that was subject to the religion of the church. Okay, because we know that all this goes back down to what we call the English Town Reform that was established by Alfred the Great, Edward the Elder, Atherton, which came to a height by King Edward the Peaceful, which is our Jesus Christ, which I'm the reincarnation of, and be able to bring to remembrance or memory these events that happened before you even came upon the scene as physical beings. All right? As physical beings. We must understand what's going on in regards to the redemption process that everybody's waiting on. You are in the redemption process. What you call reparation comes through the Third Temple English Church of England. Nowhere else are you going to get reparation. Reparation means to repair what was broken. Okay? Not a handout, not a gift, not a grant. All grants, all gifts, according to the statutory law in regards to the reversion and management of the state, were dissolved. All federal tenure estates were dissolved and now remain elodio under the king until he decides to start giving out estates and tenure again. All right? But there must be a current record, i.e., an exchequer, a current account of who owns what. All right? Because it's subject to the statute of fraud. If you didn't get it from the king, which shows that there's a clear chain of title, that means it's an abstract title. That means that there's a gap in that chain of title somewhere. Let's get there. So, key point, the group had varieties of attitudes in regards to the religious tolerization, and the Puritans, for instance, initiated one of totally Puritan society, while some leaders such as Washington William of Rhode Island and Quaker William Penn of Pennsylvania. Key point, Pennsylvania. Why? Because this is where the United States set up shop in Pennsylvania. Wasn't it, y'all? The convention of 1787 with the Constitutional Convention in regards to them not fixing what they had established under the Article of Confederation was the power belonged to the king and parliament. They didn't want to fix that. They didn't want to fix king and parliament. They wanted to break away from parliament. That was their original intention. That's what their ultimate intentions were, because they knew it was not their right to be here. All right? It was not their right to be here. So since we're talking about William Penn, let's go to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was founded in 1681 through a royal land grant to William Penn, the sons of the state's name. Yes, Bishop Searchy, the clouds on the title. Jesus coming in the clouds, right? That's what they talk about. Jesus coming in the cloud. Declare that title. All right. Pennsylvania was founded in 1681 through the royal land grant to William Penn. All right, you hear that? A royal land grant to William Penn. All right, the son of the state's namesake. Prior to that, between 1638 and 1655, a southwest portion of the state was part of the New Sweden and Swedish Empire colony. All right, established as a haven for religious and political tolerance, the colonial era province of Pennsylvania was known for its relatively peaceful relationship with the native tribes, innovative government system, and religious pluralism. Pennsylvania played a vital historic role in the American Revolution and ultimately successful quest for independence from the British Empire. Right? Hosting the first Second Continental Congress leading to the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. On December 12, 1787, Pennsylvania became the second state to ratify the United States Constitution. The bloodiest battle of the American Civil War at Gettysburg over 3 days on July 1863 proved the war turning point leading to the Union preservation. Through the late 19th century and 20th century, the state manufacturing-based economy continued to the development of much of the nation's earliest infrastructure, including key bridges, skyscrapers, and military hardware used in the United States led victory to World War I, II, and III in the Cold War. Let's get it, y'all. Talking about the Great Wagon Roll, right? The Wagon Roll. Pennsylvania's geography is highly diverse. The Appalachian Mountains run through the center of the state. The Allegheny and the Pocono Mountains span much of northern Pennsylvania. Close to 60% of the state is forest. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? History. Key point. You know, before William Penn had it, it was under the province of Pennsylvania. Let's go there. province of Pennsylvania, also known as the Pennsylvania colony, was a British North American colony founded by William Penn, who received the land through a grant from Charles II of England in 1681. The name Pennsylvania was derived from Penn's Wood, referring to William Penn's father, Admiral Sir William Penn. The province of the Pennsylvania was one of the two major restoration colonies. The proprietary colony charter remained in the Penn family until they were later out following the American Revolution, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was established as one of the original 13 states. You hear that? So William Penn's charter was ours. All right? Everything that was given to him by Charles II, as well as everything that was given to the Duke of York from his uncle or brother, whatever, family relative, Charles II was dissolved. Why? Because we got the statute 1646:3-1, 46:3-2, 46:3-6, a New Jersey revised statute, which is on the parliamentary statute in regards to the rights that the land is still allodial, free from any feudal tenure estate, which you call estates and land. Okay? We can actually prove it. How we know it? Because we see here, it said it was revoked. Didn't it say that? It said, where's it at? Until later oust by the following American Revolution and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and was established as one of the original 13 states. All right, let's go to New Jersey, Provincial Province of New Jersey. So if you're talking about the province of Pennsylvania, let's talk about the province of New Jersey. Okay. The province of New Jersey was one of the middle colonies of colonial America. It became the United States of New Jersey in 1776. You hear that? The province had originally been settled by Europeans as part of New Netherland, but came under English rule after the surrender of Fort Amsterdam in 1664 by Charles II under the restoration of the crown. That's after the Battle of Dunbar, which allowed the Scottish Jews to now come back into what? England, not over there, but over here. Because we know through the Scottish diaspora, which is nothing more than the Ulster, Scottish plantation of Ulster, which was under the authority of the planned colonization settlement established by King James VI of England and the first soon to be of Scotland by the authority granted to him by the English settlement of 1701 by Elizabeth I, who were the daughter of King Henry VIII, who was the son of Henry VII, who were in line with King James IV through the Treaty of Perpetual Peace of 1502. Okay? You got to know this, y'all. The current record is here. Here. Your ancestors are banking that it's here. Okay? If it ain't here, then you won't be able to make that transition to what we call the fourth dimension. You're in the three-dimensional now, right? State. Trying to move into the fourth dimension under the same time continuum. Okay? So how did we do that? You can't take the body with you, right? You can't take the body with you because the body is physical, it's made of matter, mass, all right? It's subject to gravity. You fall down, it's going to hurt versus a feather. A feather is just going to glide down because it has less mass, all right? It's not subject to special theory of general theory of relativity, which deals with mass, gravity, okay? We're making the transition to the fourth dimension through the same time continuum, from the same time continuum going from the present to the past, which prepares us for the future, which is the transition to what we call fourth dimension, which is the transition for what we call space-time continuum. Space-time continuum. Continuing under the same time continuum to move from one space to the other, not physically, but mentally, okay? Because it's a mental resurrection, not a physical resurrection. We must understand that. The past is the key, all right? Because the past represents the time continuum to the present, all right? That's that straight line that everyone must walk, okay? Ain't no cutting corners for this, all right? As it was in the beginning, she'll be in the end. There's only way to the beginning to the end, and that's a straight line, okay? Which you can be called a circle, because a circle is a straight line, okay? So within that transition from three dimensional to fourth dimensional depends upon your understanding of fourth dimension, three dimension, and fourth dimension. And we know fourth dimension is based upon the three dimension, based off your understanding that's the past. Because he who writes your books sets your timeline. He who writes your books sets your timeline. Time never was when we were not. As the life of time begins, the time will come when we will be no more. So when you say time, time has a starting point and a beginning point. All right? That's why clocks are inside what they call a spirit. All right? It has a beginning point and an ending point. We're stuck somewhere in the middle. All right? And don't know the beginning. Somebody else is telling our beginning to determine our future. All right? Somebody is telling us our beginning, and they didn't even begin there. They didn't even begin there. Okay? I'm letting you know that the Anglo-Saxon Berbers misnominated as English as a result of William the Conqueror invading our territory because these are English are Berber letters. All right? They're not what they wanted you to believe these letters are. We all speak English. Latin don't speak English. Latin people speak Latin. All right? So they will have Latin letters. If you see Latin people with English letters, then they're lying to you. Okay? They're lying to you. We all speak English. But English is not a nationality. Why? When you look at English, English it refers to the national language, okay, which everybody speaks. All right. But when you're dealing with the nationality of the English, they go into what they call Anglo-Saxons. And Anglo and Saxons are two different people. Anglo lives in the Anglo spirit, and Saxon lives in the Saxon spirit. The Saxon spirit are denoted to those who invaded England. And England is not called Great Britain, nor is it called Scotland, nor is it called Ireland. Because we know that when you say the Anglo spirit is all of the English seed over possession, which goes back to Alfred the Great, Ashton, right? Ashton. And we know that Ashton were the founders for what we call the Plantagenet crown. The Plantagenet crown were descendants to Margaret of Scotland, and Margaret of Scotland, also called a Margaret of Wessex, daughter was Margaret of Matilda of Scotland, who married William Adelin, the son of William the Conqueror, who died in the White Ship, which caused the anarchy. It's called the anarchy. So now you know, as I was talking about the beginning of your story. You can't take the body back there. You can take the mind back there, all right? And then you can bring your mind back to your physical body and then check the record. Everything you have here in the physical. We're looking at it right now. Everything we read right now qualifies what existed prior to our physical bodies, as well as all the physical bodies who are still there, as well as all those physical bodies who died without this information. All right? All those who died without this information were ignorant. But that ain't going to stop them for sinning because they were protected by our ancestors. They have a saying, blessed those who take part in the first resurrection, for which the second resurrection has no sting. You're going to be held more accountable than those who died without this information. Y'all better listen to me. You are going to be held more accountable for those who did not know this information, all right, than those who do know the information that didn't practice it. All right? Y'all better understand what's going on. Okay, the province of New Jersey, one of the middle colonies of colonial America, became the United States of New Jersey in 1776. The province had originally been settled by Europeans as part of New Netherlands, but came under the English rule after the surrender of Fort Amsterdam in 1664. That was called the Commonwealth under what they call a rump parliament. Become a proprietary colony, the English renamed the province of the islands of Jersey, i.e., look at it. That's our flag, y'all, right there. That's our flag. That's what you see all the officers stand behind when they make their appearance here on the Third Tip English Church of England. That's us right there, y'all. How we know that's us? How can we prove that's us? All right. So it says the English named the province after the islands of Jersey and the English Channel. Dutch Republic reasserted control for a brief period in 1673, in 1674. After that, it consisted of two political divisions, East Jersey and West Jersey, until they were reunited under a royal colony in 1702. Did y'all hear that? I didn't make that up. We just read it. The original boundaries of the province were slightly larger than the current state, extended into a part of present-day New York under the borders were until the borders were finalized in 1773. This is why you're talking about the metropolitan area. New Jersey, New York, Connecticut are all one great big metropolitan. Okay. Okay. So if it was united by Queen Anne, as it said in 1702, that means we go to New Jersey Provincial Council. Right? Remember the 1787 convention in Philadelphia was to separate the power of government through a separation of church from separation of the government by creating the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. All right, which separated the power of church and state. When we go back to the Jersey Provincial Council, it was the church ruling at that particular time. And the New Jersey Provincial Council, which was a fusion of power in New Jersey, not Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Okay? Once again, not Pennsylvania, but New Jersey. Everybody pull that up. New Jersey Provincial Council. Provincial Council. The Jersey Provincial Council was the upper house, not the lower house. The Jersey Provincial Council was the upper house of New Jersey Legislature under the colonial rule until it was replaced by New Jersey Legislative Council on the Jersey Constitution of 1776. Did everybody catch that? The upper house, okay? The Provincial Council was established in 1702 under the surrender by the proprietors of East Jersey and those of West Jersey under the right of government of Queen Anne. Anne's government united the two colonies under the province of New Jersey. A royal colony established a new system of government. All right? Did everybody hear that? The instructions from Queen Anne to Viscount Cornbury, the first world governor of New Jersey, outlined a fusion of power system which allowed for an overlap of executive, legislative, and judicial authority, provided for the bicameral legislative consisting of the council and jury assembly. When did this change? Let's see. When did that change? From 1702 from 1702, right? It was supposed to be a fusion of government. When did that change? Let's see. right? Let's go back to colonial government first. Colonial government, right? Colonial government in North America. Colonial government in 13 colonies. Relation to the British government under the colonial government in North America. By the start of the American Revolution, the 13 colonies had developed a political system featuring a governor exercising executive power and bicameral legislative made up of the council and the assembly. The system was similar to the British Constitution, with the governor corresponding to the British monarch, the council to the House of Lords, and the assembly to the House of Commons. Crown. The 13 colonies were all founded with the royal authorization, and authority continued to flow from the monarch as the colonial government exercised authority in the king's name. A colony's precise relationship to the crown depended on whether it was a charter colony, proprietary colony, or royal colony as defined in the colonial charter, whereas the royal colonies belonged to the crown. Proprietary and charter colonies were granted by the crown to private interests. Let's go to king and parliament. Again, king and parliament. You can't make this up, y'all. The Westminster system is used in many Commonwealth rims. The king and parliament or queen and parliament in the reign of a queen is a constitutional, which happens to be the case in 1702, which was a fusion of government. It is a constitutional law concept that refers to the components of parliament, the sovereign or vice representative, i.e., vice royal, in let's say in place of the king, and the legislative houses acted together to enact legislation. Okay, together, not opposite. Okay, parliamentary sovereignty is a concept in constitutional law of Westminster system that holds that the parliament has absolute sovereignty and is supreme over all other government institutions. The king of parliament as composed body that its parliament exercises this legislative authority. Fusion of power. The concept of the crown as part of a parliament is related to the idea of the fusion of government, meaning the executive branch, the legislative branch of government are fused together. This is the key concept of the Westminster system of government developed in England and used in countries and Commonwealth nations and beyond. It is contradictory to the idea of a separation of power. You hear that? So it said it's a Westminster system. All right? The Westminster system that goes back to time immemorial. Okay? The Westminster system going back to what we call treaties of Westminster. Right? 1674. Treaty of Westminster 1674. The Treaty of Westminster of 1674, out of all the Treaty of Westminster, going back to the original one, 1153, dealing with the anarchy, the Treaty of Westminster of 1674 was a peace treaty that ended the Third Anglo-Dutch War, signed by the Dutch Republic and the Kingdom of Great Britain, not the Kingdom of England. They were acting under the auspices of the Kingdom of England. The treaty provided for the return of the colony of New Netherland, New York, and England renewed the Treaty of Breda of 1677. The treaty also provided for the mixture commission for the regulation of commerce, particularly in East Indies. It was signed on the 19th of February, 1674, by Charles II of England and ratified by the States General of New Netherlands on the 5th of March, 1674. England was forced to sign the treaty since Parliament would not allow more money to be spent on the war and had become aware of the secret Treaty of Dover, in which Charles had promised to Louis XIV of France to convert to Catholicism and at an opportune moment. The English were dismayed by the unexpected fact that Dutch raiders had managed to capture more English ships than vice versa, and that New Amsterdam had been retaken by the Dutch in 1673. All right, so this at the restoration of Charles II. All right, of Charles II. Yeah. Constitutional Convention. So it says, as the Constitutional Convention for the United States in 1787 arose their Constitution. Okay, it arose their Constitution. Let's read it in closing. The Constitutional Convention took place on Philadelphia from May 25th, September 17th, 1787. Although the convention was intended to revise the League of States and the first system of government under the Articles of Confederation, which was actually the authorities and prerogatives of the king and parliament, which was the fusion of government, because we know under this constitutional government, the aim and goal was to separate that power that actually belonged to the king, all right, which resulted in what we call the interruptum, instead of the demise of the transfer for one king in opposition to the next, all right. The attention from the outset of many of its proponents, chief among them was James Madison of Virginia and Alexander Hamilton of New York, was to create a new frame of government rather than the fixed existing one, which was functioning under what we call a fusion of government, all right. The delegates elected George Washington of Virginia, forming commanding general for the Continental Army. In the late American Revolutionary War, and the opponents of a stronger national government to become president of the convention. The result in the convention, which was the creation of the Constitution of the United States, places the convention among the most significant and events of American history. This brings you to what we call your First Amendment. Which your First Amendment is religious freedom, and religious freedom is based upon the Establishment Clause. Okay, let's go there. The Establishment Clause of the United States of America pertaining to the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, together with the Free Exercise Clause and the Freedom of Religion Clause, Congress should make no law respecting the free exercise of religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof. All right. These clauses are based upon the presidents, all right, of the constitutional clarity, all right. Not the Bill of Rights. They say the Bill of Rights as well, but the Bill of Rights were passed by the Scottish King, all right, which had to deal with them, not us, them, all right, who put in place those who will now replace them under the Articles of Confederation, which consisted of the um, First and Second Continental Congress, which became a confederation, which brought forth the Confederation Convention of 1787 to do away with the fusion of government that was practiced prior to the British colonies established their regime here over here in North America in 1707. All right, get there. The clause was based upon a number of precedents, including the Constitution of Clarendon, the Bill of Rights, as well as the Constitution of New Jersey and Philadelphia. Okay? Philadelphia and New Jersey. The historical background of the First Amendment or the Establishment Clause, which you call the First Amendment, which is the first of religious freedom, the constitution of the 12th century English law had prohibited criminal defending using religious laws at the time in medieval England canon laws of the Catholic to seek exemption from criminal prosecution. This is why they broke away from the church was a separation of church to separate the functional government that had control over violations of law in regards to the law that was governed under the church by way of its body of politics. Okay? We must understand that. All right? Then you got the 1689 Bill of Rights that were practiced by those who were subjects of the Roman Catholic Church, which didn't even want to follow their law. The English Church of England and the Church of England are two different societies. All right? Colonial Pennsylvania was governed under what we call the Church of England. All right? The colonial New Jersey and Pennsylvania Constitution outside of the Bill of Rights was the Mason-Dixon line, which was a demarcation line between the Catholic colonies of Maryland and New Jersey and Pennsylvania colonies, which followed the 1688 Bill of Rights and their own colonial constitution, which provided similar protection against the establishment of Catholic laws and government, as we've seen in the Constitutional Convention of 1787. All this originated with the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom that was initiated by Thomas Jefferson. All right. A possible additional precursor for the free exercise clause was the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom. The statute was drafted by Thomas Jefferson in 1777 and was introduced to the Virginia General Assembly of Burgesses in 1789. It did not pass the General Assembly until 1786. James Madison played an important role in this passage. The statute disestablished the Church of England, not the English Church, the Church of England that was functioning under what we call Henry VII and Pope Gregory I, all the way back in the 6th century AD. It says the statute established the Church of England and Virginia and guaranteed freedom of religion exercised to all men of religious faith, including Catholic and Jews, as well as members of all Protestant denominations. Do you see the track, y'all? Do you see it? So from that, the Classic Constitution is totally different from the Bill of Rights, totally different from the Constitution of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and it's totally constitutional from the Bill of Rights of the United States, enacted in 1789. 1787. All right? Totally different. So you must understand the importance of the Establishment Clause, right? And where the original purpose of the Establishment Clause was rooted in regards to understanding your laws of state. And that's the Declaration Constitution. Let's view that. The Clarendon Constitution was a set of legislative procedures passed by Henry II of England in 1164. The Constitution was composed of 16 articles that represented an attempt to restrict ecclesiastical privileges and curb the power of the Roman Catholic Church called the Church of England. All right? Called the Church of England. All right? And the extent purported authority in England and the anarchic conditions. They're talking about the anarch, okay? Henry II predecessor Stephen and Blois, the church had extended its jurisdiction by taking advantage of the weakness of the royal authority. The Constitution claimed to restore the laws that were observed by the reign of Henry I in 1100 to 1135. Okay, let's look at the size of paragraph and closing. We know the Constitution of Clarendon was passed by Henry II, son of Godfrey, the son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem, all right, where the Jews were kicked out, all right? All right, it says the size of Clarendon was an act of Henry II of England in 1166 that began the transformation of the English law and led to a trial by jury in common law countryside worldwide that established the assize court. These are called your county courts or courts of shire, okay? This was passed by Godfrey, the fifth Count and Jew's son, Henry II, who was the father of Henry II, Richard I, Henry III, the son of Edward I, the father of Edward I, who was the father of Edward II, Edward III, and then gave birth to John Gaunt, which the House of Tudors got their start from, okay? Which gave the start to the Stuart family, which resulted in the colonies getting their start, which resulted in the United States getting their start, okay? Which is nothing but reversion, in the street of an estate that went interstate because they assumed that you as English Anglo-Saxon burghers aren't here anymore. Okay? So this is when the eminent domain powers of the state of New Jersey comes in. All right? So it says the Assize Pattern was an act by Henry II of England in 1166 that began a transformation of the English law and led to a trial by jury and common law countryside worldwide and established the Assize Court. Prior system for deciding the winning party in the case, especially in felonies, included trial by ordeal, trial by battle, or trial by conflagration, which is nothing more by oath trial, and which evidence inspections and inquiry was made under oath of laymen, knights, or ordinary freemen. That means y'all. After the Assize Pattern and trial by jury developed, though some historians say beginning in the jury system predates this act, the Assize Pattern did not lead to this change immediately. Recourse to trial by combat was not officially rescinded until 1819, though it had then fallen out of use. What was the purpose and intent for the Assize of Clarity? Let's see. 1154, and Henry II inherited the throne of a troubled England. We're talking about over here, not over there, over here. Henry II inherited the throne of a troubled England in full swing, where the Crusades, a military endeavor that kept noble landholders away from their castles for years at a time. We know that the plantation and settlement based upon Edward III was to create castles and fortifications, okay? Unoccupied and unclaimed lands invited squatters, such as those who immigrated and migrated here, since there was no central recording office for real property like there is now, such as what we call the county clerk office or the county recorder of deeds. All right. There was no central recording office for real property in England at that time, and sorting out who owned what fief was entrusted to human memory. Disputes arose when aristocrats returned and died thousands of miles away from home. This is when you get into William Penn, who used the ceremony that Henry II, son of Godfrey V, Cunningham Jew, who are all kin to the kings of Wessex, going back to Atherton, where the process of lottery season was established from in lieu of conveying property. Okay, they took this right of conveyance from us, all right, and instituted their own under what we call fee and simple. All right, we started the gap in what we call the chain of title, which resulted in feasible, what we call the feasible titles given out under the process what we call common recovery. All right, they were stealing the land from that which was called intel estate, which is personified by the crown. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm close out on this. If I can go right now to New Jersey courts, NewJerseyCourts.gov, and get this article under the common law. In closing, this is going to take us out right here. Okay, in closing, this is from NewJerseyCourts.gov for New Jersey. All right, we done went all the way back to the colonial days of the colonial government to the establishment of United States government, which got their start from New Jersey. Okay, New Jersey. When New Jersey gets there, everybody takes follows behind. Okay, this is one of the documentation used in the case filed against your king in regards to land. All right, the land issue that's going to be reserved hopefully in the next month by way of a dismissal, which automatically going to turn into what we call an affirmative defense, which results in an equitable remedy, which will be an injunction, all right, on the state of New Jersey, as well as counter profits, recitation, what we call recitation, rectification, as well as the council profits, as well as the unjust enrichment, as well as compensation. All right. All these things are going to come out of this case that's filed in what we call New Jersey Superior Court, because New Jersey Superior Court took over the authority that the Supreme Court had, which was the authority that was based upon what the legislature said was initiated, was based upon the responsibility of the King's Bench. Okay. New Jersey Supreme Court is responsible for the laws governing the King's Bench, all right, which is incorporated. You can see Bellin versus Harris for that case. All right, so in closing, New Jersey's 1947 Constitution created a court system capable of responding to the needs of New Jersey citizens and to change our society. For more than 7 decades, New Jersey Supreme Court has gained recognition nationally among the state's highest court for its timely, prudent, and well-conceived innovations to the common law. Yes, NewJerseyCourt.org. Yes. The common law, like other judicial principles, arise out of the court rulings resolving controversies presented to courts by people in search of a solution. 1 second, let me make sure. www.newjerseycourts.gov. Once again, www.newjerseycourts.gov. That's the website. Once again, www.newjersey, Let me do it, get it to you again. www.njcourts.gov. Once again, www.njcourts.gov. It should pull right up for you. Are those who got that? All right, there you go. Well, you can follow along then, Brother Spencer from the House of Spencer. All right, so it said origin of the common law. Now, mind you, I'm in the New Jersey court, right? They're suing me in the New Jersey court, all right, where this article is published, which I'm using as evidence in lieu of this complaint filed by New Jersey. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? And this is what they say. Being one of the original 13 colonies, New Jersey has been strongly influenced by the English law and the Anglo-Saxon traditions. The 3 branches of government enshrined in the United States Constitution and the New Jersey Constitution. You hear what I'm saying? It didn't mention just the New Jersey. It says the United States Constitution. Okay? The United States Constitution, they use that first, and then the New Jersey Constitution are derived from English history. You hear that? The king was the executive branch, Parliament in the legislative branch, and the courts the judicial branch. So that meant what we're reading right now is evidence to show that what the United States did was unlawful under the Constitutional Convention of 1787. Greetings, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont. Unfortunately, we got the end noble one, but definitely glad you was able to join us. As we can see, reading from NewJerseyCourt.gov, NJ Court, what's it? NJCourt.gov. What's it? www.njcourts.gov. We're reading, and they're saying that, and we just got finished talking about that under the crown, it was the fusion of government that was left here. All right. And we hear that the United States government under the colonies separated the government. All right. That's what we're saying. You can go, Bishop Search, you can go right on NJ, www.njcourt.gov. Yes, that's it. Let me know when you get there. We just finished talking about the separation of power, contrast, or versus the fusion of government. Okay? We know that the United States separated the fusion of government that was already here in 1702 until 1776. All right? Now we're here in the 1947 Constitution qualified that the fusion of government was already here all the way back in 1776. And not just then, all the way back to Henry II of the Kingdom of England. Got it, Bishop Searcy? NewJerseyCourt.gov. That's the New Jersey Superior Court. New Jersey, it's the New Jersey court system in New Brunswick, New Jersey. All right. So we see here again, we just got finished talking about what the United States government did under the Constitutional Convention, all right, in 1787, right? They separated church and state, and it separated the government. No, you want to see it on the front page, you have to go into it to get it. Yeah, they ain't gonna put that right there on the front page, Count Bishop. You know that. You got to go into and find it. Okay, but you know when you go to I found it. I just don't have the time to do it right now. So I can let you know later on how to actually go into the actual court the actual website and find the actual article relative to the common law. But it is there. I actually did it myself. I just forgot how to do it. Okay. So once again, we're talking about what the 1787 Convention of the United States government did in 1787. It's called Origin of the Common Law. Matter of fact, let me just show you. 1 second. Okay, I got what you're saying. It's on the official website. It's on the official website of New Jersey Judiciary. Let me show y'all. I'm trying to show it now. I'm on my screen sharing. There we are. Pulling up for you now, Countess Bishop Searcy. See it up there? Official website of New Jersey Judiciary. Go back. So as we can see, this is on the, we're not even talking about the 1776 Constitution. All right. We know in 1776, the Crown was active, right? Based upon uh, uh, the New Jersey Provincial Council was from 1772 to 1776, and it said it was indefinite. Let's look at it. Somebody lying. Somebody is lying, and it's not us. It said New Jersey Provincial Council from 1702. It was a fusion of government, right? From 1702 to 1776 until it was overthrown. Let's see the overthrow. Right here. On December 6, 1775, Governor William Franklin paroled New Jersey legislature until the 3rd of January, but it never met again. On May 30th, 1776, Franklin attempted to convene the legislature, i.e., the upper house of the Provincial Council, but met instead with an order by New Jersey Provincial Council for his arrest. On July 2nd, 1776, the Provincial Council approved a new constitution, and on August 13th, a new legislature was elected, with the appointed Provincial Council being succeeded by the elected New Jersey Legislative Council. You hear that? So they overthrew the government on July 4th and declared their independence on January 14th, 1776. Okay? So but prior to that, there was a fusion of government. All right? There was a fusion of government. Let's go back to it just to qualify it. Right here. A fusion of government, executive, legislative, judicial authority overlapping. Okay? You must understand that. Now we go back to uh, the Constitutional Convention. You better say that from the archive, because they're going to take that out of there real soon. They got that right in the evidence for the court case, y'all. Right there. I saw my public defender now. He was like, wow. Wow. All you got to do is produce that on the record is ball game. Ball game. All right? During the American Revolution, the 13 American states replaced their colonial government, which was a fugitive government under the Kingdom Parliament, all right, with Republican Constitution based upon the principles of separation of power. Did y'all see it? Did y'all hear it? Can y'all attest to that? Let's go back to the Constitution that of 1947 on New Jersey website. New Jersey 1947 Constitution created a court system capable of responding to New Jersey needs of citizens. And to change our society for more than 7 decades, New Jersey Supreme Court has gained recognition nationally among states' highest court for its timely, prudent, and well-conceived innovation through the common law. We're talking about the common law. We're talking about New Jersey High Supreme Court. The common law, like other judicial principles arise out of precedents, which are court cases, rules, resolving controversies presented to courts by people in search of solutions. Individuals and others ordinarily with the help of lawyers selected the issue to present to the court. In effect, the common law resulted from judicial decisions resolving those issues case by case. Yes. Yes. You shut them down with this. How we know? Origination of the common law being one of the original 13 colonies. I don't give a damn what colony you're in, what state you're in. All right, whether it's the original colony or those that were added, or what they call by way of what they call annex. All right, being one of the original 13 colonies, New Jersey has been strongly influenced by the English law and the Anglo-Saxon tradition. That's the social compact, y'all. That's called the social compact that they agreed to. All right. The three branches of the government enshrined the United States Constitution. You hear that? Of 1787 and the New Jersey Constitution of 1776 are derived from the English history. The king was the executive branch, parliament, the legislative branch, and the court, judicial branch. So what the hell did they do in 1787? If this article that's on New Jersey courts, which is parakeeting what the Supreme Court said about the colonies, especially New Jersey, in regard to the origin based upon the United States Constitution, where they got their foundation from, was rooted in the fusion of government, which you separated in 1787 based upon the king and parliament, which was the king, parliament, and judicial acting as one. Okay? As one. It was in the English judicial that a formal civilized, what you see on the news when you go there and watch Congress, House of Representatives, not the upper house, but the House of Representatives talking about indicting, impeaching the president, and the argument that they're talking about is not even based upon that. It's based upon somebody's hairstyle or fake eyebrow. All right, the color of somebody's hair and fake eyebrow. You know what I'm saying? This is all orchestrated. All right. So let's get to it. It was in the early courts in England that the common law took root and evolved into our current system of courts, judges, and juries. The common law was known today, date back to the 12th and 13th century and derives from the reign of King Henry III, who appointed judges to resolve disputes among his subjects. Why? They ain't gonna use it because it don't involve them. All right. So King Henry II, that goes right back to the constitutional clarity. Constitutional clarity was a set of legislative principles passed by who? King Henry II. Why is King Henry II, the King of England, the son of God, the fifth kind of man, the son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem? And we know Jerusalem represents the Garden City. New Jersey is called the Garden State, so it will only seem fitting for it to be called Jerusalem. And we know that New Jersey is where I reside. Okay, why is New Jersey making reference to King Henry II and the Constitution of 1947 in regard to the common law, in which the courts of New Jersey, but not just the courts of New Jersey, the Supreme Court of New Jersey, as well as the courts of the United States of America, since that was the last thing to be created in the Constitution of the United States of 1787. Well said, Archbishop. And I wouldn't advise you to use it because the people don't have the competency to actually use that, and you're going to make yourself find yourself in worse trouble because they're going to make an example out of you. All right, you don't want to be in the position where they be able to make an example out of you to discourage others from making the same type of flight. All right, so be careful. What does it say? What's that saying? Be careful. What is that? How's that saying go? A gun can be dangerous in the hands of a fool. A gun can be dangerous in the hands of a fool. A knife can be dangerous in the hands of a fool. A paperclip can be dangerous in the hands of a fool. All right? Anything can be dangerous if you don't know how to use something. Okay? If you don't know how to use something. All right? Let's get there. So with that, I'm going to try to play this clip off. I'm going to actually try to play it over. Okay? You hold on and see if we can get it off. If it don't play, then you can go to it. Okay? I'm definitely going to try to play it since we at the end. It's only if we fit to play it at the end. That way, the disruptions, if there's any, will be left up to the end. Okay. It's funny. 22. It's fun. Check it out. Well said, Brother Dever from the House of Dever. All right, check it out, y'all. Listen very close. Now it's playing, but it ain't giving me no sound. Hold on. Oh, okay, all right. Archbishop, turn it up on what? Because it's supposed to be on. Can you hear it? Can we hear it? Can we hear it? Yeah. Hear me now. Hold on. Recognize this recognized. You hear it now? Okay, give me a second, y'all. Can you hear that? Okay, bear with me. Bear with me, man. Same speaker. Did you hear that? Anybody hear that? I don't know why it won't allow me to play it. All right, 1 second. Testing, testing, testing. Mute my audio. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I don't know why it won't play. I'm gonna try it again. You hear me now? Y'all hear me? If it doesn't work this time, then I'm not gonna play it. Can you hear me still? Can y'all still hear me? Okay. Share my screen. Okay. I'm gonna try it again. Hopefully it'll work. If it don't, then we're not gonna be able to do it. You're gonna have to view it yourself. But you'll see the title here. Fight erupts at insane house hearing. Okay, and play it again. Okay. All right. It's not gonna allow us to do it. All right. Testing, testing, testing. Do y'all hear me? You hear me again? Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing. You hear me now? Testing, testing, testing. Do y'all hear me? The audio still? In the audio? Audio? Okay, all right, good. All right, they're not gonna allow me to play the video. So I suggest y'all view it on your own, but it's very comical. All right. So with that, I just want everyone to understand how important it is to know your history in regards to who you are, know the history in regards to the land, and know your history in regard to your representatives. Because, like I said, they're not doing a great job. All right. So I'm gonna open the floor for questions. Any questions? Any questions on the floor? The baptismal birth certificate is an instrument that was created by vital statistics. All right, 1 second. Yeah, the birth certificate was an instrument created by vital statistics to record each birth in regards to their naturalization process into their municipal government. And this is creation of what we call a legal person. It's what they call under contract law, unconscionable contract. You ever heard that term? Unconscionable contract. An unconscionable contract is an unenforceable contract. All right, because with the creation of the birth certificate is nothing more than an instrument denoting to chattel property, which denotes to something created by a corporation entity created by the state, such as what we call vital statistics. Biostatistics is an agency in regards to tracking all citizens in regards to who immigrate or migrate here in regards to being able to be uh, um, what they call identified. All right. So that's what the purpose of the birth certificate. That's the only purpose for the birth certificate. All right. It's the note to a contractual agreement that you made on behalf of your mother, ignorance of who they are, which brings you up under the status what they call partus sequitur being trim, which means the status of the mother. Does that make sense? Brother Spencer from the House of Spencer. Now, oh yeah, the baptismal certificate for itself. The baptismal certificate is just a instrument validating the recording of one's birth, all right, which was usually done in religious facilities or societies, all right, or done in what we call houses of worship, all right, and that is a religious ceremonial that is associated with many religious societies, all right. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a recording of one's birth. I think I just explained that for you. Baptism certificate is simply an instrument showing that one has been went through what they call rites of passage, all right, or what they call a cleansing, all right. We do it. We call it a bath abbey. Same thing when people join monasteries or abbots or monks or monk or nuns going to what they call nunneries. It's the same thing, right? Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Nothing. No questions from our members, officers. Everybody's on the same page with the topic that was discussed today. Is that a question, Countess Middleton? Thank you, Brother Spencer from the House of Spencer. Appreciate you. Edisto Island. That's a question, Countess Middleton. What is the Edisto Islands? Yes, make sure you do, Countess Middleton. Very, very important for us uh, to watch the videos and uh, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave right now. All right, it's very important. Thank you, Brother DeVere from the House of DeVere. That's what I'm here for. Uh, I'm glad each and every one of you are being studious and showing, as Archbishop said, your solidarity to the Third Temple English Church of England, which is the third temple being rebuilt, known as the Temple of Jerusalem, going all the way back to the time of what we call Solomon. Okay, it's very important to understand how important it is. It's going to be for us, even though those who are not a part of us is going to be going through some trying times. Um, Once again, please be studious to Archbishop and Bishop Searcy's requirement and demands for new students, as well as those who are acquiring to be officers, as well as those who are going to be enrolling for school. These things are underway. Um, I just want y'all to really realize how important it is for your gifts, your donations, your patronage, free and common focus to not just the temple, but to the king. Um, my cash app is $ Clifford Jefferson L. Once again, it's $ Clifford Jefferson L. I know CA asked earlier today, so it would be $ Clifford Jefferson L. $ CLIFFORD capital EL. Okay, all those who are able to donate, I really appreciate it. I'm planning on going to see my grandma, my mom's, in July. She's ill, so I want to make sure I get down there, to be able to pay homage to her. To all those who are able to donate, please do. All those who aren't able to, well, it's all good. But your concerns and your wishes and your blessings amount just the same. Um, yes, 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 Bishop Searchy L. Thank you, Bishop Searchy. That's it. Once again, I can't expound enough how important this information is to your present and your future status in regards to being a member, as well as being the heir, as well as having an interest in the estates or tenures that will be divested to heirs when the title or the clear chain of title is cleared before the court. And as a result of that, equitable remedy will be afforded to us as members of the Third Temple English Church, as members of the Anglo-Saxon Burgess, what we call descendancy. So please, please, please take your place amongst the affairs of the women and men. Okay? All those who are members of the Moorish Science of America, all those who are members of the Hebrew Israelites, all those who are members of Cornish Temple, all those who are members of whatever society you are. Your body politics of that society is very important for your salvation here on earth. All right. No one's speaking about spiritual salvation, which is yet to be determined. Okay. But I truly, truly, truly honor you all and I represent you all and rest assured that I will not go down without a fight. Okay. And the fight is almost over. I'm pretty much sure that we're going to have this issue dealing with our estate. And when I say estate, I'm talking about the allodial lands cleared up before the end of this year. I'll say this, if not this month, next month. You know what I'm saying? But if we have to go to trial, then we know how long that goes. I doubt it even make it. So be prepared, okay? A lot is going to be asked of you, okay? A lot is going to be asked of you. And without this knowledge that I'm giving you, you won't be able to fulfill your task. You will not be able to fill the quota, all right? Because it's a frequency. It's a mental frequency. We must all be on the same mind, all right? We all must be on the same mind. The same mind, as Archbishop said, as the Plantagenet crown was, right? You must be of the same mind as the Plantagenet crown because we know that the founding fathers came to be the planters, and they're not the planters because they're purpose from the seed from which we came, all right? And in closing, I just want to go back to Lottery of Season. I sure hate I wasn't able to show that clip. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to close out. Um, uh, you're able to converse amongst yourself if you want to. I'm not sure if the Zoom is going to cut off on y'all end, but if it does, I apologize for it. We like to power out, but that's the reason why we have the Sabbath, right? Archbishop and Bishop Church has counted the days for the Sabbath, so we require that you all be there. All right, to talk amongst yourselves, feast amongst yourselves, as they did in the abstract story concerning the upper room. You know, the upper room is nothing more than Clifford's Inn. Right now, you're in Clifford's Inn, right? Whining and dining with that food and that nourishment that's going to give you eternal life here on earth, right? So I love you. No, Archbishop said only the chosen call. All right, and with that, we say peace.